Appreciate you.
Let's see if my audio is correct now. If you guys could let me know in the
Much
chat.
better. Your audio just got much better.
Yeah, I think there was it picked the wrong audio source. Somebody let me know in the chat, and I appreciate you telling me that. Samuel, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm working with new stuff, so sometimes the settings get a little off.
I've got somebody in here who says that they have a 600-pound piano in a manufactured home and it's doing just fine. I think that's a myth because some of the really old ones, like the 1970s single width ones, were super particle boardy. And
well,
those
1996 is not considered a manufactured home. It's considered a mobile home or a trailer. You can technically call it a trailer because they have no regulations behind it. So I can see why those would not hold anything and why they fall apart. And probably the floorboards might have been particle board. Who knows? Because they didn't have any regulations. There was no rules behind it. Ron asked a very good question, and I do not know the answer to this, and I get this often. It says, formaldehyde, how long does it take to evaporate? And when you do a home inspection, do you recommend a formaldehyde test?
I do not recommend a formaldehyde test. There's vapor barriers in both. I'm trying to think what would, so any modern pergo flooring or any of that kind of stuff probably has a trace amount of formaldehyde in it, so it's going to be in every home anyway. No, I don't recommend formaldehyde. You can do formaldehyde testing. You could do that kind of stuff. You could do a volatile organic compound type test. You could do all kinds of fun stuff on those.
I think why Ron is asking this is because it came up probably in 2006. Is that when Katrina was? 2006. There was a lot of the off-gassing
ones,
there was a lot of off-gassing in manufactured homes, so you had to be very careful. And then there was a couple home manufacturers at that time that got busted for the same thing, but it was from where they were getting the materials from. A specific country that was giving faulty materials to build these homes, but essentially there was such a shortage of building materials, people had no choice, so they were purchasing it from like a third-party vendor, which they normally wouldn't have, and then they had a problem with off-gassing.
We had the same problem in regular houses with Chinese drywall too.
Same here, Chinese drywall, same thing. But what they did what HUD had recommended to help with off-gassing is they told people to open up 2 cross breeze windows, which was a horrible recommendation, may I add. Because really? So this is your solution. It's 107 degrees outside and you're going to do this. So I'm like, but you can get a formaldehyde test. There are purification you can get like a air filter type system that will help get rid of some of that formaldehyde off-gassing. It is not as much of an issue. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's not as much of an issue as that it had been in years past.
So somebody just asked me about what's the best kind of foundation for underneath a manufactured home. The majority of them that I see are CMU cinder blocks turned on their side. But some of the newer ones I've been under, they actually have an actual metal jack stand underneath the metal framing, and they just look solid as all get out. I mean, they just look completely solid. And you could, with them, with those solid jack stand looking things, they're amazing because you could go under there and you could tweak them if the ground settled a little bit and level it back out again really, really easily without having to jack it up and take the CMUs out and then re-level the ground. You could just literally turn a crank on them and level them back up again.
Can you explain to people what a CMU is?
The CMU is basically a cinder block.
Okay.
Your standard cinder block with the 2 holes in it that we all had our books on in college. For lack of a better word. You see a lot of that underneath them, but somebody was asking what the best foundation is I've ever seen under manufactured home. And these new metal jack stands that I see under the ones that are built after about 2000-ish, they're amazing. They're so solid.
They come very common here, especially because we have our ground here shifts quite a bit because we'll have a big rainy season and then it will dry out and it's as hard as cement. So they'll do that if they come back out, like you've had it settled in place, and then you call a specific a company to come out. They'll put those there because they know that they're going to adjust them over a period of time, where they will jack them back up and bring them back down again.
And out here we have. You're in Louisiana, I'm in Seattle, Washington. Out here, I'm surrounded by volcanoes, so we have a lot of glacial clay, and just exactly what you're talking about. Hard as an absolute rock, and then as soon as it gets wet, it's squishy mud.
Yeah, and like you sink in it. You sink in it. Yeah. Robert has said most manufacturer homes have a 312 roof pitch with a closed roof cavity with a possibility blown insulation. How can you inspect that cavity the way that you would inspect an attic space in a conventional home? Great question. Thank you, Robert.
You cannot. There's no access to it easily without taking something off. One of the things that you can do is, this is one of the places where an infrared camera can be a help. Lots of people think that infrared cameras are the end all be all see all of the universe, but they're not. But they can help you out, because one of the things you can do with an infrared camera is you can run it across the ceiling and you can see spots if the insulation was there or was missed, because it'll bring up temperature differences. But I don't know of an easy way without taking something off to see into that cavity. You absolutely can't. And we had a question earlier about insulation. The newer ones have a very thin insulation layer in them that actually does pretty well. But the walls aren't as thick as a regular house, so you have to be. You just can't do regular bat insulation like the purple pink fiberglass. You just can't. You can't do big, thick 6-inch insulation in their walls just because they're not that big. But there's some of the new materials that are just amazing. They're really thin, and they give you up to, I think, an R13 value. I'd have to look it up, but some of them are really good.
Yeah. I've even seen insulation made out of old blue jeans, which I think is really cool. Yeah. Oh, Eddie Smallhorn said, don't forget to smash the like button. So don't forget to smash that. Is a manufactured home safer on concrete or a foundation? I know here in Louisiana we have these hurricane straps. Yes. I do not know I do not have any charts or to show you or explain to you, but we have hurricane straps. And just recently we had a hurricane that came through. And this was in Lake Charles. It not only went through twice. They showed this area where the people's houses, because we have very high pitched roofs on a traditional home that were up like this. Those houses' rooftops were sheared off. Right next to that neighborhood was a manufactured home park, and they had missing shingles.
Nice.
Now, a few of them had shifted. But they weren't tipped over, which I found extremely interesting. I'm like, manufactured home companies need to go over this and take a picture of it. Yeah. I do want to say that I have no there's no reason for me to tell you that a manufactured home or a traditional home or any of that is any better than any other. Always have your home inspected. I don't get paid by manufactured home companies or tiny home companies or anything else. It's a home. It's a quality home you can invest in, and you can put it in a good place as long as you work with a good real estate agent and have it inspected if it's a previously owned one. But I don't have any skin in the game for you to buy either a manufactured home or a traditional home. I just want you to get a good home. So I know some people are like, I know that you work for the manufactured home companies. I do not. I'm a real estate agent.
So about the concrete foundation, I've seen a couple of them on concrete foundations. I cannot speak for the rest of the U.S. I can only speak for what I know out here. I've seen a couple of them on a concrete foundation. For me, if it was on a concrete foundation, I've seen a couple of them on an actual poured concrete foundation where they literally pour a concrete wall like they normally would. I've also seen them on CMU foundations, which is the concrete block wall foundations. And both of those, they bolt the house to the foundation, which is actually really, really stable, just like they do a regular house. And I do know that a couple of them, because they had a foundation on them, it made it easier for one of my clients, and I only know this because the agent told me, it made it easier for them to get financing because it was on a real foundation. So
that's a true statement. That is a true
it was on a
statement.
real foundation, and suddenly, and this is what I always find fascinating because I'm in home inspection, so I live in my own little world. And then when I find, I'm like, oh, that was the hitch pin with the lender was a foundation. Literally, the minute they heard foundation, they suddenly had 4 new loan programs open up to them.
I've just found out in Washington State, if the manufactured home is attached to a foundation, it's connected to the foundation itself, it's considered a ranch or a rampler. It is no longer considered a manufactured home, and it is in the MLS like that. So well, I didn't know that.
This one was in a neighborhood in Seattle, and I was like, they must have made him put it on a foundation. And I got under it, and I was like, okay, is this a modular home where it's built in sections and brought to the place, or is it a manufactured home? And I got under there, and it was a traditional manufactured home, but they had put the foundation around the outside, and then they built, just like you would in a normal house, they built a ribbon footing underneath the middle of it and put in the little the center wall. And so when these folks, this happened to be one of those, we'll call them challenging clients.
Okay.
When this challenging client called me and asked me some questions, he said, well, I'm having trouble getting insurance, but he was calling it a mobile home. And I said, you need to go back to because he called me to ask me some questions. People do this all the time. When I get done with the inspection, they call me and they say, I know that you know, please tell me what kind of plumbing is in my house, what kind of roofing is in my house, because I'm trying to fill out an insurance form. And I'm always like, didn't you read the report? But well, that's another live stream. Anyway, so he calls me and and he says, well, I'm having trouble getting insurance. I said, you need to call your insurance company back, and because I said, you have a unique house. Make sure you tell them that you have a foundation underneath your house. And suddenly he had insurance because they didn't want it. They thought it was they were thinking mobile-ish, modern manufactured. And of course, when you say mobile, that can mean something before 1975. And I was like, no, your house was built in 91 and it has a foundation under it. I was like, I'm telling you, my friend, if you can't get insurance through who you know, I know an insurance broker on the east side in Bellevue, Washington, that will insure it. But he got insurance because it had a foundation.
When you say mobile home, when you talk to insurance companies, they automatically it's like they don't even hear you after.
Shut you down.
Yeah, because they're thinking like an RV, which is not the same thing. So you always have to say it's a manufactured home if it is built after 1976. So go ahead and make sure you do that. So Francisco says they don't offer manufactured homes here in North New York State like the South. Why? Well, it might have to do with your regulations of the state. Some areas, some states, and some counties will flat out put in their ordinances they're not allowed to have manufactured homes, and that was passed because people in the area that are on those committees and that you voted for said that they weren't going to allow those types of structures to be built in your area.
I've got a new question in there. Go. Sorry. Keep going.
And it's become more commonplace. It's like if you go into closer you are going to be to busier cities, the more likely you're not going to be able to have a manufactured home. The further you get away from those cities, the more likely they're going to have less restrictions when it comes to manufactured homes, tiny homes, modular homes, that type of thing. Anything under 600 square feet here, we can't even have it. So you can't even have a tiny home here.
So somebody's asking about plumbing. Zane is asking me, what's the best way to replumb a mobile home in a cold climate? Can you just run new lines beside the old polybutylene in a manufactured home? And the truth is yes. One of the things that I run across in manufactured homes a lot is polybutylene plumbing. And people are like, oh God, what do we do? And
what kind of plumbing? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Polybutylene plumbing. He's asking if it's the gray polybutylene plumbing.
Okay, yeah, gotcha.
Recalled plastic plumbing, and it's in a lot of manufactured homes. And Zane's question was, can you run it alongside of it? And when I find that, and I tell customers about it, customers about it, when they start looking it up, then they get kind of freaked out, and they're like, okay, what do we do? I wish, and I'm glad, I understand that it's my job and no one's going to do this, but I wish you could see underneath a manufactured home how easy it is to run plumbing. There's a big gap under there. There's a crawl space under there.
Mm-hmm.
You could literally lay on your back, pull the plumbing out of the floor, and poke it right back up there super easy. That doesn't mean a plumber is free, but it would be easy to replumb most manufactured homes completely in very little time. And yes, you could run the polybutylene. You could either pull the polybutylene out and use that same hole and run PEX through it, or you could run it right alongside of it. Because if you think about it, in most manufactured homes, you've got the kitchen right next to a bathroom. They're very close to each other, so you could be underneath this one and this one, and then most of them will have the second bathroom in the back. So you're only running plumbing to 3 areas of the house, and the total distance under there is what, 90 feet at the most. It would be, I could, as a guy who looks at this stuff all the time, I'm always laying under there going, well, it would be easy to replumb it, not free, but it should be easy because you could just, it's all right there. And you can see it very clearly.
I have a very stupid question because we don't live in a very cold climate here, but you do.
Yes.
When it comes to the plumbing underneath the house, because there is a crawl space and there is a space underneath that.
Yes.
Do they have to like wrap their pipes? Do they do a foam insulation around the pipes? What is it that you do to protect the pipes to underneath that manufactured home? And is there something that someone could do after they've purchased a manufactured home if it isn't qualified enough?
So anytime you manufacture a regular house, it doesn't matter. If you're in an unconditioned space, a crawl space, an attic, any place like that, the plumbing is run, you want it to be insulated, especially in a climate like mine where it gets to 20 degrees, because it can freeze. And even though it's plastic plumbing and it has a little bit of give to it, you still want to insulate it. But in some of the parks out here, the first 10 feet where it comes from up out of the ground and it's wandering through the crawl space before it goes up into the floorboards, many times they'll do there's an electric wrap tape that you can put on it that you plug into the wall, and it keeps the pipe warm in the wintertime so that it doesn't freeze up. All of that stuff, any insulation you can put on a pipe, any electric wrap that you can put on it that keeps the pipe warm, you can always put that on afterwards. Always, always, always. And when I get under them and I see any exposed plumbing, that's the first thing I say is, you need to insulate it, because so far this house has been here 20 years and the pipes haven't frozen, but you're playing Russian roulette.
Yeah.
It's 16 degrees here.
Yeah. Jacques says, what if you have limited dollars for upgrades? What would you suggest to upgrade for, I'm assuming, the manufactured home? Well, you always get your most money back from kitchens and bathrooms. Doesn't matter if it's a manufactured home, traditional stick-built home, tiny homes, you're always going to get the most bang for your buck in kitchens and bathrooms.
There's just nothing to really upgrade in a bedroom, so you might as well do kitchens and bathrooms.
Well, you could always paint. Paint. Susie says, I've been through so many hoops selling my manufactured homes. It's not funny. If it's connected to a manufactured home park, they always become a little bit more of an issue, because you can't, in many areas, you can't, especially here, if it's in a manufactured home park, I can't sell it because it's not actually attached to the piece of property. That land underneath it is rented. In California, you can find real estate agents that will find you parks, and in Florida as well. But I can understand. If you're having more issues, Susie, and you do need to find a real estate agent, or you need a little extra help, email me and I can get you connected with a real estate agent in your area that specializes in manufactured homes. I know many people, lots of people. So I mean the type of selection. The property we own is in the mountains, upper Delaware, Catskills, is allowed. Okay. I have a new wood stove installed in my home, and they moved the chimney within a foot of the interior wall to have legal distance in the front. How safe is that?
So where the chimney goes through the ceiling or goes through the roof, it should have been flashed properly so that heat doesn't transfer. But when it's wood stoves and the stovepipe running up along, I don't know that that's going to be allowed within a foot of the interior wall. I'd have to look that one up. But when you have a wood stove or similar in manufactured homes, you have to have brick or something non-flammable up to, I think it's 40 inches, maybe 40 inches on the wall if it's in a corner. For sure, because embers and coals can come out, and of course there has to be a certain size platform. Boy, within a foot of an outside wall, I'd check local codes. That seems a little close-ish.
That sounded close to me too, but like every area is going to have something a little bit different. So what I say, and I'm super confident about, is because I'm talking about Louisiana, and what he's super was putting his rubber stamp on and super confident about is because it's because of his area. So anytime you have a question about something, always check with your local, local area, because every county, every district, every parish, everybody's going to have something a little bit different, something else because we require, certain kinds of hurricane straps. We require certain kind of lift on manufactured homes, especially in their flood zone. We require certain things that you wouldn't even think about. It wouldn't even be a thing for you. Now, when it comes to manufactured homes and your home inspections, do you check the well system as well, or is that a separate inspection for somebody?
That's a separate inspection out here.
It is here for us as well.
So if I can see, I have to stay within my standards of practice, which is we don't do wells.
Okay.
Now that I've said that, now that we've gotten all the legal stuff out of the way, now that my insurance company's happy and my lawyer's happy, here's what I will tell you. I have a well driller in my family because I'm from the great state of Nebraska. And so when I find well equipment, I take pictures of it and I ask my nephew who runs a well company, I'm like, is this the good stuff? Does this look like there's anything going on? So I can kind of give them that information. And then the only other thing that I could do is I could do an arsenic test with the well water. And kind of guide them through that. But I always recommend a well service person, absolutely, every time.
Joseph said, at least use a cheap styrofoam wrap on your pipes.
Yes,
that works. We have a on our home, we have a tankless water heater. The water heater is actually outside, which people find absolutely bizarre. Well, one year the whole water heater froze because we stayed below 20 degrees for several hours, which was bizarre, totally bizarre. So then after that we wrap ours in styrofoam. It works.
There's a couple of styles of manufactured homes where they're on the outside of the house. You have to take the door off the outside of the house to look at the water heater.
Well, there you go. What do you know about the DOJ in the MLS? Well, I work for the MLS. I don't know about the DOJ, but our Realtor Association deals with the MLS in order to advertise all of our listings. As a real estate agent in the Baton Rouge area, that's what we do. As long as you're a part of our board, we use the MLS. It's a great way to sell your house. That's for darn sure, because it goes out to so many different places. She said, Gail said that the inspector did not flag that brick is up to 48 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I learned.
Different.
Yeah, like you're gonna have to know. You're definitely gonna have to if you're worried about it, Gail, I would call somebody independent just to get some clarification, just so you have a little bit of peace of mind.
Right.
Just somebody in your area.
I could be wrong on the 48 inches as well, but I always measure how far up it is and then look up and see even though I'm not supposed to be a code inspector, I always measure how far the brick or the non-flammable material goes up. And then I go home and look. I can't keep track of all the codes. Yeah.
Susie said that her inspectors were not separate. Her inspections for the well and the
in some states they do that.
And even here we have, I don't know if you guys do it here, but we have, it's pretty specific to have a wood destroying insect addendum attached to all home inspections. So some home inspectors will do the wood destroying insect report with their home inspection. Other ones will not. So they just might have had a home inspector that inspected your specific home that was licensed to also inspect the well. They're just probably licensed to do both, which is kind of nice.
Mine out here, a lot of them are on septic. And some of the parks they're hooked up, but I do a lot of them that are independent and they'll be on a hunk of land, 6 acres or 10 acres, and they'll be on septic. And there is one home inspector in my area who does septic along with his home inspections, and but I don't do septic at all, because septic has to be, you have to take certain classes and be certified and all kinds of fun stuff. And I do enough disgusting things. I don't want to be certified in septic at all.
So everybody loves a good story. What is your favorite, like, what was the most unusual thing that you have discovered in inspecting a manufactured home? Like, what was the oddest, like, oh my God, WTF moment that you were like, what have I got myself into?
All the stories I'm thinking about are on other houses, but on several manufactured homes, I've gotten under them, and Fluffy the kitty, or Fluffy the dog, will come under there to say hi.
Oh yeah,
scare the ever living daylights out of me. So I'm crawling around underneath this manufactured home, and I can swear it's the weirdest thing. So I'm underneath this manufactured and looking at the metal and everything. I'm laying there on my back, and I get this feeling like I feel like I'm being watched. And you know how cats do this one? You know how cats do this one?
Yeah.
I turned to the right, and there's a cat this far from my face. I screamed like a little girl. He was right there. I also can, and it's not the funnest story in the world, but under many manufactured homes, I found out what happened to the family dog.
Yeah.
Because the many of them just have skirting on the bottom of the house, and it's really easy to dig under an animal when they know that the end is near. They crawl underneath, and that's their final resting place. I've found some pretty bizarre stuff, the usual stuff. I've opened up kitchen cabinets and been like, okay, now I know where they keep it. It's right there next to the fridge. If you know what I mean. It's a water pipe.
Yeah.
I found
that's pretty common. And like
really
people are less, people are less worried about you finding their water pipes.
Like less much, especially in my state. I find that kind of stuff all the time. I have walked into a couple where we've yelled at the door, real estate, done the inspection. I know one. There was a guy asleep in one of the back bedrooms.
I've done that when I was showing homes.
He opened the door, and he was like, "Hi." Did you not hear people screaming? The last half hour in your house? Anyway, it just happens.
Sam asked a good question. What do y'all think about getting an interior walls insulated and having double layer drywall in a manufactured home? Will that help the value? I don't know what area you live in. I know just for anything, don't over improve a structure. If you're willing to do that, and you live in an area that you're only going to get $100 per square foot, and you're putting in all this extra work, and it's not going to value for more than $100 per square foot, don't do that. Don't go overboard. But if you're trying to bring something up to snuff and get a little bit more than the average area, maybe just do a 1 or 2 rooms, upgrade a kitchen, repaint it, and then you could sell it. But I would never ever recommend over improving a manufactured home, or even a house for that matter. And if you're trying to boost the value, because sometimes it's just not there, no matter how much improvements. You can't over improve your home, no matter what home it is.
Somebody in here said that a skunk met their inspector underneath the manufactured home. That has not happened to me yet. I haven't met a skunk. I've met a possum, on a raccoon, and when I see both of them, I try to figure out if I can get to the opening faster than they can, because raccoons are nasty.
Well, I don't know if you know. Have you ever seen a nutria rat? Okay, so it looks like a beaver. So this whole family of what I thought were beavers comes out, and it wasn't beavers; they're freaking rats, and they're huge. They look like beavers, but they have the rat tail, and they're humongous. Welcome to the South. There's some people in the bayou will actually eat them in gumbo.
So, somebody just said that they've heard in the state of California, if you attach a manufactured home to a foundation of land, you own it, and it is considered real property. They wanted to know if we could confirm that. I can't confirm anything in the state of California because I don't work there, but
I don't know anything, but if you go to the manufactured housing expert on YouTube, you can contact him. He's a friend of mine. Tell him that I sent you, and he will give you all the information about California manufactured homes. I couldn't tell you at all, but I know here in Louisiana, if it is attached to a piece of property and you're not renting the land underneath it, it is considered a real property, and you get tax on it just like real property. But it is less taxes because it costs less. It's less than a traditional stick-built home. Just to know that. It says it's summer. Snakes are out in the mountains. You're going to go under a mod home. What you got to do is make sure it's clear. Sometimes though, those little things are scared. And when you go underneath there, they're scared and they're like, I'm just going to stay still and hopefully they won't get near me. And as you get closer, they're like, well, critters will freak out.
I when I get into any crawl space, whether it's under a manufactured home or a regular home or anything, I bang on the anything to make noise. If they hear noise, then they'll scatter. And then I do it for vibration as well, and it usually makes people scatter. But I'm really cognizant when I'm about to go into that netherland. The very first thing I do is I do the cop flashlight all the way around. And a couple of times you go around and you see eyeballs. Now a couple of times you don't see the eyeballs, and like I said, you're laying there and suddenly the cat is right there.
Yeah, I'd much rather a cat than a snake or like any of those things. Amanda says, so I'm in Sulphur, Louisiana. Yes, I know where that is. Welcome, neighbor. Welcome to the channel. It says, we're replacing our damaged manufactured home with a new, larger one. Do you have any recommendations for grading our property correctly before putting it in? I would hire somebody that knows exactly how to grade a piece of land perfectly before you put that down. And before you put it down, make sure it is settled. You may want to get a soil compaction report before you actually settle it down so it doesn't shift over time. Just that was my little piece of advice there.
Somebody said he lives in the mountains of Tennessee and they get copperheads. Yeah, I'm real glad I don't live in an area with copperheads. Yeah.
We have like anything you see that's an animal is pretty much poisonous. That's I mean, like the South is known for like it's going to kill you.
Yeah. By the way, Lon, you're right. I hope they will scatter. Look, I'm just trying. I bang on it to try to make them scatter, but I'm trying.
Debbie says, is the inspection the same for hurricanes and tornadoes? The inspection the same? Oh, are you? Well, I know that for a manufactured home in our area, you have to have, especially in certain areas of Louisiana, you have to have it for wind zone 3. So you got to just make sure you're in the proper wind zone for your manufactured home. Don't buy a manufactured home for wind zone 1 when you live in wind zone 3. So always make sure you have the best wind zone. Here we have hurricane straps. I don't think that's a thing in your area, is it?
It is mine, yeah.
You still have to have a hurricane strap. So you always got to have to make sure that your house is put in correctly. Make sure it's inspected after it's been settled in place, and have somebody inspect it 6 months after you've had it settled in place. So that way you know that it hasn't shifted and it's still properly anchored. My little I've done this.
We do hurricane straps out here because one of the things that people don't believe from out of state when they meet me, and I have to explain it to them, is there's a myth that hurricane force winds are only in hurricane zones like Louisiana. And out here, 3 or 4 times a year, we get wind above 70 miles an hour. And the only thing that makes our low pressure systems not turn into a hurricane is the water's too cold. Our water offshore is too cold.
Do you snow there?
Yeah, we get snow.
Do you guys get
level? So we get snow like twice a year. It shuts everything down. It's like I'm from Nebraska, where the drift had to be above my head before we could not go somewhere. And out here, this much snow in Seattle, Washington shuts everything down for a week.
So you don't get like nor'easters like they do in New England, right?
No, but
I'm originally from Plymouth, Massachusetts. I know all about a nor'easter.
But in like November and in March, we'll get a couple of heavy wind events, and so they now require hurricane strapping on their manufacturers just to keep them to the ground, because you can get serious uplift with that much wind.
Kathy says our custom-made manufactured home we purchased in 1994 has, yes, and still has one window different than the rest. It has, and all have grids between them, double pane glass, but was 4 square instead of 6 like the rest. Can you replace it? I mean, I'm sure you can replace that. How much? Like, we have something called Window World here. They're not that expensive. I think it's like $88 per window to replace. If I had one window off, that would literally drive my ADD absolutely insane. I would have to fix that. It would, and I don't know how you couldn't have done it all this time. I would be losing my mind. Gail says it's a true. She's in California, so it is considered real property according to Gail. Susie says that is a Texas, a manufactured home on a foundation is considered real property. See, every state's going to have something different. Susie says it is considered in Texas.
All I know is when the manufactured home out here was on a foundation, it changed all of the answers and it changed everything immediately. I can't speak for your area, but in the Seattle area, when I saw it, and we started doing, me and the agent started to do some research, and of course she was talking to the lender and all that other fun stuff. It changed everything.
Yeah, it changes everything here too.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that manufactured homes are not a good option for, because they have this misconception that they're a terrible house and they're not good for a family. So now that you've done this for a little while, you've inspected them, would you say that manufactured homes are a good quality product for somebody looking for an affordable housing option?
They are. The two myths that I kind of go on when I'm talking to people about buying one is I'll get under it and see how it's anchored, and then you and I can kind of decide if you think that's good enough, and if also if it's good enough for your lender or if you're paying cash. But the two things that come up pretty consistently is people are really freaked out about what kind of quality of electrical is in a manufactured home, and what I find more often than not is that the electrical is in really good shape in a lot of them. Many of them have a full 200 amp panel. The electrical looks just like any other house. The issue that I run across the most often with them, honestly, is plumbing. They usually the plumbing seems to be the issue with them. If we can get past the plumbing issue and the roof's in good shape, I think they're an awesome, well, I'll give you an example in this area. Seattle's one of the most expensive markets in the nation for a price point. And out here, there isn't anything between $75,000 and $150,000, except for manufactured homes. So out here, they're a great option. And some of the parks are in better shape. And if they're built after about 89, they seem to be in actually pretty good shape. So I like them. I think they're great.
I think they're a great housing option. I know a lot of people give me guff about it, and I don't know if you've ever seen. Do you know who Dave Ramsey is?
Yes.
Okay, so Dave Ramsey has some good information, financial advice. I'm not going to say he doesn't know what he's talking about, but when it comes to manufactured homes, he makes this blanket statement saying that all manufactured homes will drop like a rock. They're just like a car. As soon as you drive it off the lot and settle it in place, it's just going to depreciate in value. And in some cases, this is 100% true, but not in every single case. It's not, that doesn't even make sense. If you go to many places in Florida, you're going to gain value in that piece of property that's attached to the manufactured home. Many places in Florida, California, here in Louisiana, I know in Texas, you're going to gain value. In some areas, it's going to drop like a rock, and the only thing it's going to be worth is the land that sits underneath it. You're going to have to talk with a local real estate agent or somebody that's an appraiser that can tell you what areas will continue to gain value and add value to your property. I'm not saying that you wouldn't gain more value if you had bought a traditional stick-built home, but I'm saying that in many areas, it's not a blanket statement. Not every single manufactured home you buy is going to drop and sink like a rock and you're going to lose all the value in it. So just don't listen to the hype. You don't, like, if they don't know anything about it, then don't listen to them.
Yeah. Dave can get a little wound up once in a while. He's got some great advice, but man, he can get a little wound up about once in a while about stuff like
I
that.
think when you make a specific, like in the rock statement, like this is true 100% of the time, I think as soon as you say that, then you have negated everything else you've said beforehand. And he has not made that statement not once, but twice, but 3 times, but I mean, at least 10 times. I have him on so many different clips that I have recorded him saying, don't ever buy a manufactured home. It's a car you sleep in. And to me, first of all, that's super freaking insulting. Secondly of all, he's wrong. He's wrong.
Yeah.
It is not true in every single case. So every time he says it, I just want to like jump through. I always want to call. Always want to call. But I've been to many manufactured homes during the inspection period. And I've seen it that, you know, like they're the biggest concerns that happened with the people that are buying it is not so much the electrical. They're worried about the foundation. They're worried about it shifting. The second thing that they're worried about is the insulation. And then the last thing they're worried about is the type of siding that they have. Now, to me, and I had a house that literally had the same exact siding. It's vinyl siding that had the same exact vinyl siding that was on my house on this manufactured home. And this woman was like, this is cheap vinyl siding. I'm like, do you want to come to my house? Because it's the same. And honestly, we had a tornado hit our house and we had to go to a manufactured home replacement part area to find the vinyl siding that was on my house. So can you talk a little bit about the type of siding that you've seen on manufactured homes and what you feel like the quality is?
So vinyl is really common. The other one out here is we get a lot of masonite or OSB siding, where it's basically pieces of wood glued together. It's OSB. OSB is, you know, they make into 4x8 sheets of plywood. And a lot of it's that kind of stuff. So out here, because it's not just a myth, there is a lot of rain in Seattle. That type of siding, if it's kept painted and the trim is kept painted well and it's kept sealed very well, it'll last forever.
Masonite seems to deteriorate here. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it'll deteriorate out here. Yeah, it'll deteriorate out here too if rain gets into it. So if they keep it painted, it does pretty well. Lots of wood product siding. You know, where it's like I say, pieces of wood. It's not an actual board. Vinyl. Some of them are metal. Are aluminum
siding.
Yeah, I've seen aluminum siding on a couple of them.
Like more newer ones or older ones?
These would be older ones.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen anything metal.
Almost.
I know I've seen the masonite and it rots. Like here in Louisiana, that masonite rots, especially at the bottom.
You get hot weather as well. Out here we just get days and days and days of rain, and if it's nice and sealed up, it'll last forever. But the minute water gets into it, if it's masonite, you can have issues with it. And I see issues where the trim meets it. Usually it's always, for whatever reason, it's in the back corner. That's always where I seem to find the siding issues, if there is one. But I've seen them where they were just outstanding. There wasn't anything wrong with them. So
I have a old video, like one I did about 5 years ago. Oh no, I'm sorry, not 5 years ago, but about 11 months ago. I don't know where I was thinking. Anyways, about 11 months ago, and it was about the myths of manufactured homes. But one of the things that he mentioned, Mr. Gary did, he talked about people oversizing their air conditioning units for the manufactured home, and that it caused a sweating issue between the walls and between the siding and the walls, and that they, it was basically like condensation on a cup like this, and it would cause this. So you had like water damage. Is that something you guys look for if the unit is oversized when you do an inspection? Will you tell somebody something like that if you do know that?
I noticed it. Yeah. Because I usually run the moisture meter around the bottom of the windows, looking for it coming in through the windows. And then I run it around the windows on the outside to see if the trim is letting the water in from there. And then I do infrared. If the temperature difference is great enough between indoors and outdoors, it will show where water's coming in. So yeah, I have out here, what's really cool, because I have the right climate zone for them, lots and lots and lots of heat pumps out here. So not very many of them out here if they have a cooling part to them, not very many of them have air conditioners. Most of them have heat pumps. And I just haven't, the issue you're talking about, I have seen, but not on a manufactured home.
It happens in manufactured homes because people will have one that's like, let's say 15 years old, and they're like, oh, we're going to go ahead and get a new air conditioning unit. And then they're like, we're going to get the biggest Jimmy Jangus we can get. And they're blowing like really cold air. It's oversized for the manufactured home.
And you have Louisiana summers where it gets above 90.
It's oppressive.
Here, we get to 85 to 90, and that's our hot season, and it lasts 4 whole days. And people, you'd think they've been shot in the face. It's over 85 degrees for 4 days, and we're like, so we don't really need as much cooling as you guys do. So we probably don't have as long of a cooling cycle. So it would take longer for that to show up. I'm not telling you that that's probably couldn't be the case, but it would take longer because I don't have a Louisiana summer. It doesn't 80 degrees and last for 4 months. It's 80 degrees and lasts for 4 days.
Web Barf says, I'm in PA and my manufactured home is on a foundation. Many in the park aren't on foundation. Those of us on a foundation, however, get a better homeowners insurance. Bingo. The bingo. That is exactly right.
There you go. By the way, is Eddie Smallhorn, is that your husband?
That's my main squeeze. Yep.
Yeah. He's hysterical. I'm reading his comments. He's hysterical. He's giving people grief like crazy. It's fun.
Well, you know why he's being especially ornery today because we don't know if he's been exposed to the stuff, and he's there. Yeah, he's in his room, and he's just in total lockdown. So we've been we don't let him out of his room right now.
Yeah.
And it was actually our 21-year anniversary on Saturday, and we did it from a distance.
Well, I'm just going to speak for him. He's going a little crazy in that room. Maybe it's time to bring him food and water. I'm just going to say that.
We just fed him. We just fed the Eddie. He should be fine. Zane says, I like aluminum siding because it will last forever and it's easy to take care of. You know what, Zane? I agree. And we have vinyl siding. It works pretty good here. Aluminum, it's just not very common here. I just don't see that. Oh, Gail said she loved that video. She must have seen the one when I did with Gary. That was a great video. Same thing happens with RVs, probably with the air conditioning unit, probably though she's talking about the overflow unit. People get excited. They're like, I'm going to buy the biggest, best. It's going to be the bomb diggity bomb. Like it's going to take over the world. It's going to be the Whisper 2000 air conditioning unit. And then they're like, what's wrong with my house? I'm having all these problems because they overdid it. Everybody wants bigger and better. I get it. But all right, we have some of the older manufactured homes do have heat pumps, by the way. They're usually the ones from the early 80s.
Yeah, out here they really love the heat pump, and there's those little Mitsubishi units, and they're just perfect size for that.
Yeah.
If you had Mitsubishi unit, you can put one head in the living room, and then you can put one in like the master. It's just perfect.
I have a question for you. So, you know that the housing around the country has been weird and shifting. Affordable housing is probably one of the hardest things to find. Manufactured homes, I believe, are going to become they're going to have a different look about them, and they're going to become more popular. I truly believe that, and I also believe that there's going to be more subdivisions of tiny homes. With that being said, do you believe the home inspectors are going to start looking at tiny homes as something as to specialize in, because they are built a little bit different than a traditional home as far as like where they put their
the book is not laying here. I'm reading an ADU book right now.
Well, there you go. So do you think it'll be like an ADU certification? Do you think that's going to be something that you would have to have?
Yes,
okay.
I do. And the Seattle City Council, we've reached urban density. There's no more land left. The prices are getting ridiculous. And the Seattle City Council just last year enacted a new, they're going to allow ADUs in people's backyards. Whereas before it was kind of a little bit more difficult, and tiny homes and that kind of stuff. And especially with, somebody asked me, do you mean the mini split HVAC units? And yes, I do mean the mini split HVAC units. So
that's lawnmower. He's a good friend of mine. He's a commonologist.
But we're going to see out here a lot more small homes, tiny homes, that kind of stuff, ADUs, because we have a large, we have Amazon and Microsoft are both founded here. F5 Networks is founded here. We've got tech geeks everywhere. So we've got lots of 22-year-olds that need a place to stay. And all they really need is a bed and a place for 4 beers, and they're good. So we'll see a lot of tiny homes and lots of ADUs. And so I'm trying to get on the front of that because here we go. People are doing it already, not exactly legally or the right way.
They do that here too.
Yeah. They go into their garage and they're like, if I shut the door, it's a bedroom. Like, well, no, not exactly.
No.
But that's what.
Gotta have a window. Gotta have a little closet going on there.
I'm reading up on ADUs and Portland is headed that way too. So we're gonna see a ton of that stuff. And if there's an ADU certification, I'm getting it.
You should. Gail wanted to know. I'm asking you because Gail mentioned something about a swamp cooler. Do you know what a swamp cooler is?
I haven't seen a swamp cooler since there was one on the Massey Harrison tractor when I was in Hayfield when I was 9 years old. So it's been a while, but I know what a swamp cooler is.
They're pretty common here. Yeah. You can still get a swamp cooler. People ask for them. Wow. Bob and Kristina, I think the price of a mod will skyrocket in the next few, looking at the cost to build and going up. Prepper Chris, I concur, and I'm going to tell you why my reasoning for it. And if you want to pop in afterwards, Bob, you can say what you have to say. But since all of this started, there's been a stop in the supply chain. When this all started, there was many people that had stopped shipping. Shipments of materials, building materials, had slowed, if not stopped. Then on top of it, once that supply chain started opening back up again, we had a series of natural events that caused a major problem. Where it was fires in California. They had this weird event that happened in Iowa where it looked like a hurricane that freaking took out all the cornfields and all this other stuff. It looked just like a hurricane. And then we had all of our hurricanes here in Louisiana, and then the several flooding events around the country. Those areas first gets building supply. Second is new construction. And then after that, it's manufactured homes. So what's a manufactured home company supposed to do? They have no choice. They have to raise the price of the manufactured homes right now. It may change as the supply chain opens back up. For right now, you're going to see those prices rising for a little bit until we get this corrected. There's always a correction. So if it's going up a little too high for your area and you can wait, I'd wait it out if you were thinking about buying a manufactured home. All right. Well, listen, Bob, I want to say thank you very much for popping in and having a conversation with us about inspections and manufactured homes. I appreciate you spending the day with me. And not only that, I got to try out my new camera.
I'm about to, as soon as just so you all know, I just want you to know what the rest of my day looks like. I've been given clearance to go buy more tacky Christmas outdoor lights and supplies for the house. And as soon as I was given clearance, I was like, as soon as I'm off the phone and I'm done with this live stream with Kristina, I'm going to go buy some tacky stuff at Lowe's for the lawn.
Do you buy inflatables?
Oh, yeah.
Oh
yeah. I'm that guy. I'm the neighbor where you drive by and you're like, what the hell is going on there?
I'm gonna share with you that with our my husband and I, we've had, like, everybody's had the worst, this has been a crummy year. And even my kids, my kids are even like, they're teenagers and they're like, we just don't want to do Christmas. We want to do something different. So we're actually celebrating the 12 days of capitalism. We're celebrating 12 days of gift giving up until Christmas. My daughter is so into it. She has made a full-on spreadsheet of rules of the 12 days of capitalism. We're decorating with all sorts of different stuff that relates to capitalism. And every other evening, we're going to be playing Monopoly. So we're having the 12 days of capitalism before Christmas.
Mike Shaw, you were absolutely right. The Seahawks won on Thursday. I've got Sunday. Now I can go buy a bunch of tacky stuff for the lawn. If you saw my neighbor's lawn, you'd know that I've got a ways to go to be the tacky neighbor. And I can put up stuff all afternoon. But thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate you. And if you guys want to know more about Bob, you can find him on where? Where can people find you, Bob?
You can find me at the website bpginspections.com. I'm also Bob Gross. I'm on Facebook and I'm easy to find. And I have an Instagram account as well. And my Instagram is Be Gross in Seattle, BGROSSINSEATTLE.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Be Gross in Seattle. I love it. I love it.
If you want to know what kind of a human being I am, Instagram will tell you. There's lots of pictures of that stuff that's above my head.
He's a Scotch drinker, if you didn't know.
Scotch drinker. Lots of pictures of puppy dogs and pretty sunsets and stuff like that. And then the rest of the time I'm a home inspector, so I'm pretty easy to find.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody. Have a fantastic Sunday to everybody. Bye. See you next week. 3:30 next week. Don't forget Eastern, not Eastern, Central Time. Central Time. 3:30 Central Time. Bye, y'all.